Health and Fitness with David Hollywood.
With DS Sports. Is your sports club ready for a Christmas kit upgrade? Contact DS Sports. dssports.ie.
Hello and welcome. Coming up on this week's Health and Fitness, Kieran Lillis has reached the end of an epic inter-county career in the blue and white of Laois. He joins a long-time Midlands rival, Offaly's Nigel Dunne, to look back on the years gone by and to look forward to a future of performance and mindset coaching. Itching to Tell You is a psoriasis awareness platform founded by Offaly woman Zoe Ryan. Zoe knows everything there is to know about the condition, so we're going to talk to her about what needs to be known and where we're falling short on that knowledge piece. And Olivia Guilfoyle from Healthcare Medical in Athlone joins us to talk about occupational therapy and the value of everyday movement. I'm joined in studio by Port Laois's Kieran Lillis and former Laois footballer who recently announced his inter-county retirement after a phenomenal innings in the blue and white shirt. Kieran is in with us on Health and Fitness because he's also a performance and mindset coach and is the founder of Aim High Coaching. Kieran, you've been great to come into studio to chat with us this evening. I much appreciate you taking the time. How are you keeping?
Great. Thanks a million for having me.
Not at all. It's an absolutely fundamental moment and experience in your life to hang up the boots for Laois football. So we'll start there. Can't start in any other place. Yeah. Probably a few weeks now since you made the announcement and the dust has settled. You've probably had even more perspective on it since you last talked to the media generally about it. What are your reflections on making the call?
Yeah, I suppose, the last few years you've been probably weighing it up every year and, wondering will you go again, and the body was in a good place for a number of years and it still is, but I just felt coming into my 35th year next year, I just thought it was the right time to step away. I've been involved since I was 20. 2010 Sean Dempsey brought me in, so I've been involved with, you could have said maybe the lifespans of probably 3 or 4 teams in those 15 years. Great memories, great learnings along the way, great friends made, and I've been lucky to be captain of the squad, part of the leadership team for maybe the last 8 years or so, and it's been just a great journey. Not peppered with silverware, but we had some great days and some low days as well. But they're character forming too, and being able to be part of a group that show a bit of resilience, come back year on year, and try and achieve something is magic. Lot
to be proud of.
Yeah, for sure. We might not get the glitz and glam like some top tier counties, but still there's a massive effort and a massive reward for being part of that group.
I've got someone on the line that you probably do know, Nigel Dunne, Offaly footballer and Shamrocks footballer, and certainly of the same generation. Nigel, thanks for joining us on Health and Fitness this evening.
No bother at all. How's things, lads?
As you've been listening in there, Kieran's inter-county career is in the rear view mirror, and he's gone through that experience of processing the memories now and I suppose looking at the highlights and the challenges and everything else like that. What occurs to you, Nigel, when you're listening to Kieran? Obviously you've got loads of experience with Offaly in the bank yourself, and ultimately you can't be playing until you're 45 or 50. No offence.
No, well, first of all, David, I just want to say congratulations to Kieran on an amazing career, great innings, and a true test when you're playing in I suppose, not in a disrespectful way, no more than ourselves, in the lower tier teams, to have that longevity shows suits character, and Kieran has been a beacon for Laois over the years, in fairness. Kieran, I was actually just wondering, did you know going into this year that it was going to be your last year? I know you said you were thinking about it over the last few years, but did you have a definite date that 2024 was going to be your last year playing for Laois?
Well, Nigel, look, it's been I wouldn't say I was 100%, but I remember when Billy Sheehan got appointed 3 seasons ago now, I remember thinking that he was given a 3-year term that I'd probably bow out with him, and he left after year 2. So I was still thinking that, 3 seasons ago, I was thinking, right, I'd probably see out my time with him. So it was very hard to come back. I thought this time last year, after getting a massive beating from Down in the Talton semi-final, that was hard to come back from. And my wife isn't huge into football. She's been with me through most of the 15 years, but she was the one who kind of said to me, you can't leave it at that. A drubbing in Croker, that's not how you want to bow out. And I after time I agreed with her, But I could tell that, like, you know, there wasn't going to be so many years left for me, and what was important to me bowing out was that I could call it on my own terms. I didn't want to be told, oh, listen, you're surplus to requirements or whatever it be. So that was important. So, like, you know, having a good club season under the belt this year, I was nearly happier with my decision to call it a day now.
Yeah, no, and you can see that more and more. Like you see with Brian Fenton calling time at 31. Like, I've no doubt that Kieran Lillis could have 100% played for Laois next year. But like you said, it's important to go on your own terms before people are nearly pushing you out. They can nearly want more from you. But just with the lads' ball probably back in training over the last few days, over the last weekend, when the official ban on training is up, they're going into the hard pre-season slog. You said yourself you've been there since 2010. A lifetime, really. Is there a certain amount of sadness at not being there, Kieran, or is there a relief that it's all over, you've done your bit for Laois and now you can enjoy the next phase of your life, or is there a certain sadness that it's all over?
It's definitely the sadness part, to be honest. A girl, an Armagh footballer, Sarah Marley, was on a course with me during the summer, and she had retired the year before, and she said something that stuck with me. It's like sports people die twice, and since announcing retirement, I feel in that morning stage where I'm like, you know, obviously after the club season finishes, you've got 3 or 4 weeks where you kind of let the hair down and winter, as they say, and then you're back on the wagon and you're back shoulder to the wheel, and you're still kind of dipping in and out of, like, you know, your few social nights and your hard training, and that's not there anymore. Like, it's been 8 weeks or whatever it's been since our county final, and yeah, it's that kind of, I'm nearly trying to fill the gap, you know, the massive commitment that we have as inter-county players, and you know, the studies say that it's average of 31 hours a week, so I have a 31-hour hole in my week now that I need to try and fill it. So I'm finding different ways to fill it, but like, I'm a person who's I operate really well in a group, and I operate really well in a team, and I am finding it difficult, I have to say, to have the motivation or to find that kind of troop that I need to be part of, and I don't think anything will match what we get with the inter-county setup.
That's fascinating, because, like, as you say, it's a unique experience for a human to go through, to develop bonds in large groups like that and have such shared goals. You don't find it in a post-sporting career's life. Talk to us about what the post-intercounty career looks like. You just said there's a 31-hour hole there that exists. Is stuff like aim high coaching going to get more push and presence from yourself as a consequence?
Definitely, yeah. Okay. That's one thing that I suppose my identity was an inter-county footballer for a long time, and massive part of the first years, especially of my career. You know, my mood was determined by wins and losses and nothing else really. And through working with personal development coaches, through the GPA services, I kind of began to spread my worth into other areas, be it your career. I probably neglected my career an awful lot, or further education. Relationships, they all kind of go by the wayside. Friendships, like, you know, there's a sacrifice to be made as being part of the group, so I have that time to rekindle those and reignite those, definitely. I'm also lucky that I'm part of a successful club team, that I'm not going back into, like, you know, a team that maybe you might just dwindle out, and so I am going back into a relatively high performing environment. Obviously disappointed the last 2 seasons that we didn't get over the line in county finals, but you know, there's probably a bit to give back to the club yet, and I'm conscious that I want to do that and get a few years out there. So there definitely will be more time spent in the club, which is great. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, and as you've alluded to there, it feels like Portlaoise are actually on the way back, and they had a real style about them in a lot of games over the course of the club championship this year. Talk to us about aim high coaching. To those listening who haven't heard about what you do with it, tell us what it is.
Yeah, so aim high coaching. So coaching, like a lot of people, as your identity with as a footballer, they'd be saying, "Oh, you're into coaching. What team are you with?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's not that exact thing." So coaching is all about you now and you in the future. Counselling is kind of like you in the past, going into the past to sort out any issues that might have happened as a child or whatever. But coaching is all about getting you to where you want to be, your goals, and just taking you out of your situation, raising awareness and coming up with practical solutions or tools that you can use to help you get to a place that you want to be. And I came into coaching by being an overwhelmed business owner myself, dealing with a lot of moving parts, whether it was staff, whether it was creditors, whether it was customers, whether it was all these kind of relationships, stakeholder management, all this kind of stuff, and I was getting overwhelmed. And I describe it like, especially around this time of the year, I describe it as being, you know, when you take down the Christmas lights and they're all in a ball and you can't get them out, you can't straighten, you don't know where you're starting, and that's probably what coaching has done for me. I went in probably expecting this quick fix thing, and it was much better. It gave me tools and you know, strategies to be able to go about my tasks and stay on top of myself, and that's really what it's all about. And then I was always involved in, like, I was always keen on looking at performance in terms of sport, and just the correlation between sport and business now was huge, and just high performance in general, like, you know, whether it's an executive in a corporate group or a person playing intercounty football, we all have the same kind of thought processes around performance, if we're in a good space or if we're not, and trying to regain, sustain or just gain performance levels is what I help people do on a basis, one-to-one. And then I also do a bit of group workshops, group facilitation as well, where like team bonding, connection, being adaptable to change, you know, working on those kind of key elements to performance.
Good stuff. You're listening to Kieran Lillis, Laois footballer, announced his inter-county retirement recently. Still playing with Portlaoise and very much helping everyone, be it an overwhelmed business person or someone looking to develop their own personal performance with Aim High Coaching. When we come back from the break, both himself and Offaly and Shamrocks footballer Nigel Dunne will be talking about that performance element, especially with their unique backgrounds of inter-county competition. Stay with us on Health and Fitness.
Health and Fitness.
With DS Sports. Is your sports club ready for a Christmas kit upgrade? Contact DS Sports at 085 871 5311 or info@dsports.ie. DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Your success, our priority. Let's grow together.
Welcome back. I am joined in studio on Health and Fitness this evening by Kieran Lillis, Portlaoise man who runs Aim High Coaching, a founder. We've been talking about being a performance and mindset coach. Kieran, Nigel Dunne is on the line with us as well, Offaly and Shamrocks footballer. Kieran, before the break you were talking about how you're hoping to be able to bring that sense of clarity to people who might be under pressure in their own lives and maybe to simplify what their tasks are. It sounds like what you're alluding to there. From your own experience, how much of your own sporting experience, I suppose, were you able to bring to bear when you're coaching other people to be able to help manage these kind of situations?
Yeah, I suppose, you know, it's all about trying to get people into this performance space, the sweet spot of their performance. And the way my education has brought me through coaching is like that strengths and weaknesses are two sides of the same coin. And if we stay in the one performance, so what I'm trying to say there is that if you are, say, I'm an optimistic person by nature, and when that looks good for me, I'm taking a few risks, I'm outgoing, I'm talking to people, but then on the flip side, if I stay fixed in that, I'll never get anything done. I might blindly jump into things or say yes to too many things and burn myself out. So it's kind of, there's a place and there's a situation for most of our strengths, and it's just being conscious to be able to adapt around that as well, when I need to be a bit more maybe cautious or wary of certain things and think of the pitfalls. And just leaning into performance of sports performance and business or life performance, it's about confidence and banishing that self-doubt. And the best way it was explained to me was that doubt has no on and off switch, and doubt is present in every person, whether it's, you know, I was going to say the President of America, but someone less controversial. Yeah, exactly. or a Joe Soap. But what the best performers do is they have the strategies to turn down the volume under doubt.
Okay.
And if you even think, if Nigel on the call there, like, you know, talking about, he's a great striker of the ball, and he's confidence coming up to that ball most of the time. He knows it's going to go over, and that's from repetition. That's from constantly practicing that skill. And confidence, some people think we need confidence to start a thing, whereas confidence, it comes as a result of doing the thing.
Okay.
You know, I'm looking at all the buttons over there, the far side of the table. Like, if I was put into that seat there, I'd be totally overwhelmed. They'd be like, what am I doing here? And I'm sure at one stage in your career you were probably there as well, and over time and making a few mistakes here and there and learning and just having that, you know, that feedback loop for yourself, you became confident as a result.
So it's about communicating these kinds of theories to people so they can understand what they're going through, I guess. Nigel, as Kieran's talking there, does that make a lot of sense to you, especially the idea about like building the confidence and working to mitigate against self-doubt in whatever situation you are in your life?
Yeah, that's actually really fascinating, just to hear him break things down there. And you know, when you're describing it there, Kieran, I can relate to it enormously. I would say in most areas of my life, I wouldn't be a confident guy. I'd be quite shy. I wouldn't think I'd have enough knowledge in a lot of things. But my kind of saving grace, the only area I've ever really felt comfortable in is Gaelic football. And that's kind of somewhere I can go express myself and have that kind of freedom of expression, that confidence. But in other areas I struggle. So I'm fascinated listening to you there. That's really interesting. With football, Kieran, and you alluded to it earlier being 31 hours, and that gap now to be filled. I'd imagine there's a certain amount of excitement for you to be able to invest that time into your new business venture.
Yeah, completely. I was lucky to get a scholarship as well for a Masters in Performance Psychology coming up in January, so that's given me a bit of a focus there as well. So it's going to just add more strings to my bow in terms of where I want to get to, you know, in that performance space. And then when you're putting a business out there, a lot of people who your clients are work a job, so they want the evenings, and you know yourself, Nigel, that you know evenings are few and far between with the intercounty schedule that we have. Like you're talking minimum 5 nights. So having that time, certainly allows me to be more reliable to my clients. You know, it doesn't change probably the product that I'd be able to offer, but it just gives them time, and time is valuable. It's golden at the moment.
It's focus time as well, I'd imagine, Kieran, because I don't know if you're like me, or maybe this is just me, but I'd be sitting down with the family at home here. We could be watching a movie, or my wife could be talking to me, and if I'm being brutally honest, I am thinking about, I need to get the body in shape. That 1K time wasn't good the other day. Everything is so focused on football, everything you're eating, every second of every day. So just having the clarity in your thinking, it will help your clients, I'd imagine, as well, Kieran.
Yeah, completely. And I'd encourage, you know, over time you dabble in strategies yourself, and you learn, and you kind of mix it to make it your own kind of best version. But I would encourage people to, people are coming to me because they obviously see that they're not happy in some area of their life and they want to change. And the first thing I do is check in on motivation, say how important is it that you do change? Because a lot of us can say these things and not act on them. So I try hold people accountable straight off. And then it's just about, you're talking about time management. Time management seems to be one of the biggest issues that I see in my clients. And it's about, you know, we can be doing a load of nothing and think we're doing a load. A busy fool is the kind of mantra or what's said about that. And it's just about trying to break down what it is at the start of the week, you know, your roles for the week. So like personally, I'm a husband, I'm an uncle, I'm a footballer, I'm a high performer, I'm a business owner. And then what tasks are associated with that each week? I'm a student now as well. What tasks are associated with that each week? And I try and break them up into a thing. It's a grid called the Eisenhower matrix. And it's basically a task management system with 4 boxes. One of the boxes is important and urgent. The other box is important, not urgent. The other box is not important and urgent, and the other one is not important and not urgent. Not important and not urgent, you delete that out your life straight away. That's scroll on TikTok, that's, you know, silly stuff. Then the not important and urgent is stuff that you kind of, you know, you should be delegating in your life, that other people can take care of. It is not extremely important to you. Important and urgent then is, you know, you don't really want to be in that space, because that is, you know, you're in crisis mode. It was supposed to be done yesterday and I haven't done it, and I forget about this, and you know, I said I'd give that talk to someone, or I said I'd do whatever, and I had to pay for the insurance yesterday. I'm driving the car without insurance, or, you know, these kind of things that you're in a high stress mode. And the things, if you ask people what's the most important thing for you to do in your life, they'd say, oh, read that book, or study, or, you know, check in with friends and all that kind of stuff. And that's the important stuff to you, but it's not that urgent, so we kind of neglect that. And it's trying to get people to operate out with that quarter 2, it's called. That quarter 2 place in the Eisenhower matrix, that's where you focus all your attention. Obviously the important and not urgent, or the important and urgent things are very important for you to do, so you have to get those done. But over time, if you can use that strategy to operate out of that quadrant 2, the important and urgent things won't be as many. There's obviously going to be a few that pop in every week, but if you can get your time management perfect, it's out of that quarter 2, important and not urgent.
I think we can all relate to that. That's fascinating, and as you say, if you can address the tasks in a planned out way, then those crisis mode moments will start to decrease as time goes on. It's clear that you've got a passion for what you're doing around this area, and you're furthering your knowledge about it and that type of thing. What's your vision for the future with it? The next few steps that you've got mapped out at all?
Yeah, I suppose at the moment I'm baby steps. I'd love to be involved in a corporate performance culture where I'd be in maybe a learning and development role, given leadership programs. I've done a master's in leadership, professional leadership already, and I'm a qualified primary school teacher. I have education and training background, so I'd love to be able to marry those into a corporate world where you're given maybe some leadership programs. You're doing facilitation of group workshops where you get team values and behaviours associated with that, and team bonding, which is like, the best performing teams, whether it's corporate or sport, are the ones that you have the deepest connections with and the most adaptable. And how you get these connections, and I've been involved with teams that the connections have only been surface level. I just know their name. I don't know anything about them, if their parents are alive or dead or whatever. And those just opening and having that vulnerability in a space, in a controlled space, it works magic. And I bet you, Nigel, you'd be the same. Like, if you think of it in a sporting context again, whereas if you're coming down the straight, whether it be with Offaly or Shamrocks, and you know who you want to get on the ball out the field, and it's probably because you have had the best relationship with that person. You understand that he'll look for the ball, and he'll give it into you. He'll see the white in your eyes, and he'll know this lad's going to show for the ball, and he's going to, and if you don't have the connection with all your team, well, then you're not in a high performing team as a whole.
Interesting stuff.
And it's just about trying to develop those connections in team environments, whether it be corporate or sport, and that's probably where I want to go. The performance psychology piece, I'm fascinated with performance psychology, and I enjoy going into that myself. I'm raging that I'm not 10 years younger going into the space, because I think it would have benefited my career as a performer. But now, look, I'm trying to add value. I'd love to get involved with it wouldn't be the be all and end all, but I'd love to get involved with teams, be it county teams, not even my own county but other counties as well. I'd love to see different environments and learn, or even different sports. I'm fascinated with boxing, and I just think that, like, the mentality that boxers have at an amateur level, even in Ireland, one of my coaches, football coaches, he's a high up in Portlaoise Boxing Club, and I'd always be in touch with him, just seeing who the new kid on the block is, and just going down and watching him, and it's like an art, and I love getting involved in those kind of.
Yeah, I mean, and boxers blow my mind as well, the commitment and the mindset that they have. If there were teams of athletes playing team sports with that collective mindset, they'd probably mop up at the moment in a lot of respects. If anyone listening actually wants to engage with you and have a chat about how you might be able to help them individually, or they're a team in work or anything like that, then how would they do that, Kieran? Yeah,
so that's probably it. It's amazing. Over the last few months, I've only launched, say, my business 6 months ago, but I've actually changed the domain since. So it was Aim High with Kieran. Now it's just KieranLillis.com. So I'm just in the middle of building that website out at the moment. Hopefully it'll be back up and running by January, February time. I post a bit on Instagram. Always available for a DM and LinkedIn. Then I operate in LinkedIn as well. So. Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. Well, people can get in touch in that respect. And now, look, I can't end this conversation with Nigel Dunne of Offaly and Kieran Lillis of Laois without revisiting what has been a storied past between the two counties. Obviously, it's always a huge game when it's on. Nigel, let's start with yourself. I want to know what your first memory of playing against Kieran might be. Can you enlighten us as to how far back that might go?
Well, first of all, I've had a lot of bad memories, because we haven't beaten Laois that many times over the years, but if memory serves me correct, and it's one I think about way more than I should, considering how long ago it was, we would have fancied ourselves as minors to win the Leinster Championship in 2007, and a brilliant star-studded Laois team where I don't know how many of them went on to get trials with AFL and everything, beat us in Portlaoise. And if memory serves me right, Kieran was part of that panel, and it was that was genuinely one of the worst defeats I've had. And unfortunately for me, it started as it meant to go on, because up until last year we hadn't got too much success over Laois, and as luck would have it, I was suspended for that game. So maybe I was the problem all along.
Kieran, you're nodding your head. Do you remember that game, the minors?
I do. And Nigel, did you score the goal, the very first kick of the game? Was it you who scored it, or was it in that minor game?
No, the goal I think was actually scored by Daniel Corms, who went down to hurl for Offaly.
Right. You were a free taker that day.
Both teams were very equal at the time, but Laois, he just had so much quality in that minor team. It was frightening. Yeah.
We had a great minor team that year, all right, and we drew with Dublin in Parnell Park. Johnny Cooper and I think James McCarthy was on the subs bench that day, but there was a good few star-studded teams who went on, or lads who went on to do wonderful things with the Dubs jersey. But I remember that game. All right, it was a lovely day in Moore Park, and that was the semi-final. And we actually we went into Croke Park then, probably thinking we'd done it all, playing Carlow in a final and winning by 9 points at half time. Sure, most of the lads, I remember this, like, it just shows how green we were. I remember going into the dressing room in Croke Park, and like, boys were only concerned about the going out clothes that they had, and they were hanging up the go. Yeah, that's all they were. And I'd say coming in at half time, 9 points up, it was like, where are we heading? And we only won we hung on by a point. Brendan Murphy put on an exhibition, in fairness to him. That
was the day I think Zach Tootie scored an amazing goal off his left foot into that corner, that game against Carlow.
That was the semi-final against Derry. He did this unbelievable solo run
against Derry, was it?
Yeah, he buried it into the top corner. I keep slagging him that was a miss hit and that got him the AFL contract. So he doesn't take to that nicely even now.
That's the past, as in one of the first instances you guys crossed paths. Kieran came in, Nigel, and mentioned a more recent game. Kieran, you might maybe one of the last times he's crossed swords.
I think it was, yeah. It was the last time the two of us were against each other. It was a drawn game that we had in the Talton.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I remember, it goes on the field now, and I remember we exchanged some pleasantries around half time, or that's how we did. But it's all inside the white lines, so we're all good.
He was asking me, was I okay, David? Was I getting through it okay? That's all.
Well, he said that's very generous of him to check.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? I've always kind of wound a few people up and all that kind of stuff, but it's normally. I went extra hard that day in the Talton Cup, and I actually said it to Rory McNamee. I was like, we were out the gap, we were home and hose. I was 100% sure we were, and I said something to him. I said, "Geez, you're off it today," or one of those kind of comments, and he said, "Don't say that." And they came back. He wasn't happy with me at all. He went straight over to me at the final whistle, and I actually laughed because I was like, "Yeah, I deserved that." In fairness, so I did. Yeah,
we were steeped that day. In fairness, again, it was. I think we scored a goal and 2 points in the last 2 minutes or something. It was ridiculous, really. We definitely didn't deserve it, but I wasn't pretending at the time.
No, and then you were full value for money, and in the Leinster Championship last year, we just didn't have an answer to it, really, unfortunately for us.
But it's amazing, in fairness, and on that day, Offaly we're by far the better team, but the way he showed the resilience to come back and get to the Tailteann Cup final and to play against Down, to nearly exercise the demons of the year before, where it was nearly like a witnessing murder in Croke Park. I thought Laois, without getting full redemption, there was a certain amount of satisfaction, I'd imagine, but the way he kind of came back, and we're in it right till the very end against a really fancy Down team. So ultimately, Laois probably ended up having the better year, even though we probably won the bragging rights early doors. Yeah,
that's true, yeah. And it's amazing how the seasons do ebb and flow like that. You try and just make the most of those opportunities you have, especially against your near neighbours. But the season can take off in other ways then for either team. And it obviously we got the rub of the green last year. We could have been out against New York at one stage. They surprised us nearly that day. And then we just got in a bit of a roll, and we end up getting over Kildare, which is my first time in a competitive game. Let's say we played in a Burn Cup that we won in penalties, but that was the only other time I beat Kildare in a senior grade.
Wow.
So to be able to have that bragging rights, or sorry, not bragging rights, but to be able to have that, just that we took that scalp, was great. And then to get to the final, to get to play I think three times in Croker last year is brilliant, and to grace the field for all of them, and then bow out in my intercounty career, and that last day was special. Like, 7-year-old Kieran would have taken off your right arm for one day on the subs bench there, the nice seats. But yeah,
it's been a phenomenal career, and we heartily congratulate you for it. A last word, Nigel, and I'll let you go. Thanks for taking the time to chat to us on health and fitness this evening.
No, not at all. I just want to say, Kieran, congratulations. Genuinely mean it when I say a great lad. I know you said you had words in the field, but they were fairly innocent, in fairness. And the best compliment I can pay Kieran is that, if you ask me kind of what was his greatest strength, he was strong, athletic, well-rounded, good footballer. But what I always loved about him, and this is only from observing from being an opponent most of the time, so his teammates probably got even more value from this, but I felt he was a seriously brave footballer. And I mean that in the sense that not dough-barring a lad or anything like that, but always wanted the ball and always was taking his teammates out of pressure. And I think that's nearly the greatest trait a player can have: wanting the ball, wanting the responsibility, and of course leadership. So it's no surprise that he's now doing what he's doing, and if he's half as good as in the corporate world or in the next phase of his life as he was playing, he'll be in good stead. So congratulations and best of luck with it all, Kieran.
Magic, Nigel, thanks a million. Really mean that.
Good man, Nigel. We'll catch up with you shortly. Kieran, you've been great with your time. I really appreciate you coming in to us. So in the new year, KieranLillis.com will be there available for people to get an idea of Aim High coaching and what it offers. And if anyone has any questions in the meantime, they can look up Kieran Lillis on Instagram and throw you a message.
Super, yeah.
Top man, thanks for coming in.
No problem at all. Thanks a million for having me.
Next, we're raising awareness about a skin condition that affects over 70,000 people in Ireland.
Health and fitness.
With DS Sports. Is your sports club ready for a Christmas kit upgrade? Contact DS Sports at 085 871 5311 or info@dsports.ie. DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Your success, our priority. Let's grow together.
Midlands 103.
You're very welcome back. Itching to Tell You is a psoriasis awareness platform founded by Offaly woman Zoe Ryan. Zoe knows everything there is to know about this particular skin condition, so we're going to talk to her about what needs to be known and actually where we're falling short in terms of the information. She joins us live in studio this evening. Zoe, thanks for joining us.
No problem, David. Thanks a million for having me.
Talk us through Itching to Tell You, what it is and what it does for people, and then I've got loads of questions after that, but I'm sure you're going to answer half of them in this response. Talk us through Itching to Tell You.
So Itching to Tell You is an online platform that I decided to set up a number of years ago. So I suppose for a little bit of context, I was 18 when I was diagnosed with psoriasis. And for anyone who's unfamiliar with the condition, psoriasis is an inflammatory autoimmune condition that more often than not presents itself on the skin in the form of these inflamed and often scaling marks. And I suppose I created the platform because I wanted to give people something that I didn't have when I was first diagnosed with psoriasis. And that was, one, a resource where they'd be able to find out information about their condition to help them to better understand it, accept it, manage and treat it, to even cope with it. But as well as that, I wanted to provide them with a personality, someone that they could look to trust and to see themselves in, I suppose, because when I was diagnosed and definitely growing up, I didn't see myself reflected in mainstream media. I didn't see people who looked like me. And I suppose all that fed into why I felt like I had to conceal the markings on my skin, because I felt like it didn't fit that beauty standard that we see promoted in the media and that I didn't fit in. So I wanted to show people that there are people out there who look like you, who experience the things that you were going through, who understand you, and to let them know, as I said, that there's someone else out there who knows, so that they can find comfort in that, but also to see that it is completely normal to be that way.
That's great. And I think the idea of putting a personal face to it and an actual human identity to it can mean so much more to people who are looking for direction and information and ultimately help and support. Before we sat down to talk, I looked up, I just Googled how to live with psoriasis, and I swear to God, these are the top results when it comes to the information that's out there. If you look it up on that basic point, the NHS, and they say don't smoke, don't drink and don't be overweight. That was all they had on it. It was 4 lines. The HSE is next on the hit list of nonsense, and they say there's a good bit more detail under a number of headings, but all of the information is basically about following the instructions of your GP. GPs, by the way, are people who we can't find time to see it all famously over the course of the last number of years. And then the other piece of advice is just be healthy, which is really great. And they have a note on the page. Sorry to do a drive-by on the HSE if anyone from there is listening, but page last reviewed November of 2022. Yeah. And next review coming in 2025. That blew my mind. And then the next one, the National Psoriasis Foundation, it was an American page, and they've got a lot more resource.
Theirs is a lot stronger.
Yeah. Exactly. So that just is a little snapshot of where we are, unless people look up something like Itching to Tell You. Talk us through, like, for instance, your Instagram page. If anyone is going through the symptoms that you described at the start of our conversation here this evening, what they'd find on the Itching to Tell You Insta page.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you brought up there about the kind of gaps, I suppose, in the resources that are out there. As I said, when I was first diagnosed, I found it was really difficult to get my hands on the information that I needed. It was a case of I wasn't handed a physical booklet in the doctor's surgery, as you say, or even in the dermatology unit that I was sent to. I just wasn't given a physical resource by them. The words that you hear in those rooms, they go in one ear and out the other. Maybe you don't even understand them. And like that, in the moment, you don't stop the doctor and ask them to further explain it to you, because I suppose you're awkward as well. You just want to get out of there. So the onus is on the person to look it up themselves. And of course, what's most accessible to us, it is Dr. Google. And like that, you put in a Google search, and the first problem is you'll get a wealth of different resources and articles and online, facilities, but it's asking yourself which ones are the ones that I should be looking at. What's a true and reliable resource? And like you said, I would also say to someone, whittle through it. Look for the ones that they're like that. State-owned bodies, organisations, charity organisations. Naturally enough, you think to go to your healthcare providers, like you said, NHS over in the UK, HSE here. But like that, they're coming from a very by the book, very medical. This is what the book says, someone with psoriasis, what it should be like for them. They're not coming from a patient perspective. So they're not coming from a person who lives with the condition themselves. And as you said, for that reason, they're missing information. It's also very much a thing that it's like the information's always evolving. There's constant research ongoing about psoriasis. So they're finding out new things about it. They're developing new treatments. But as you say, they're not always updating the online platform. So where do you go then? And that's why I created my platform as one that it's very much, these are the realities of living with psoriasis. I post on it every day, and it's like, here's things that you may not have even noticed will be something that someone with psoriasis might encounter on a daily basis. So for someone who is diagnosed with psoriasis, whether it's you're newly diagnosed or you've been living with it for some time, and you just don't find that you're getting anywhere with your treatment, there are pages like mine that they're people who have the condition themselves running them, that we're providing you with information, as I say, on a daily basis of how you live every day with it, as well as looking into, as you say, the more practical stuff of here are the treatment options that are available. Here's how you actually carry out those treatment processes, because often there's gaps in the documentation you get. Even when it comes to the first line of treatment with psoriasis, often or not, it is a topical application. So some sort of cream or an ointment that you're going to be applying to the skin to treat, as I said, that most prominent symptom, which are the markings on the skin. And with those even, you've got gaps. You're in the doctor's surgery. They don't tell you how much to apply, how often, when to discontinue use. So you just assume, this is in my case anyways, whenever I was last in a dermatology unit, I assumed, okay, they haven't told me. The pharmacist is probably going to tell me. Go into the pharmacy to give in the prescription, go, okay, she hasn't told me. Maybe it's going to be on the box. Maybe it's going to be on the packaging. Go home to open it and realise it's not there either. So there's this disconnect between the medical professional, the pharmacist who's prescribing it, and as well the pharmaceutical company who's created the product, because none of them have instructed on it how to use it properly. So therefore you're left in the dark. I personally have products in my press at home that I've never actually used out of fear of using them, because I knew that they contained ingredients that were quite harsh. And I felt too awkward to ring back the doctor and to ask, you never mentioned, it doesn't say it, how do I use this? So I veered on the side of caution and just never used the products. And I would say there's an awful lot of people out there who are in the same boat as me, or they've used the products, they've used them incorrectly, and it's caused them a whole load of issues. And
it's important to underline at this point, we're never saying on this programme that people should avoid reaching out to their GP or any hospital infrastructure in this country. That is your first port of call when you have any sort of health issues. But specifically, we're talking about supports, personal supports, emotional supports, informational supports. And that's what you do. And I want to ask you to take yourself back to when you're in the position of being, you're still a young person, a very young person, let's say. I just remember how insecure and impressionable I was, and how these things that from the exterior people would consider small as fully developed adults are your whole world. Like, I had very bad acne growing up, and uncles, aunts and all, they don't get it. They can't relate to it anymore. But it totally informs your self-esteem, confidence, and how you operate at that age. It must be on reflection, it must have been very difficult to go through it without the support and information.
Yeah, well, like, there's no good time to ever be diagnosed with a chronic incurable condition. There's no life stage where you can say it's a better time to be diagnosed with something that someone's turning around and saying to you, this isn't something that we can cure. You will live with it for the rest of the life, at whatever stage of life that's in. But definitely, as you say, your teenage years are your very formative years. Those are the years where, as you say, you just want to be like everyone else. You don't want to stand out for any reason. And so I suppose for me, being diagnosed and developing these symptoms at that time, it didn't come at a great time, because that was a time when, as you say, you just want to blend in. But I couldn't. But I suppose I got very good at developing ways to blend in, so ways to disguise the things that made me different, which were the markings on my skin. So definitely it impacted me. I think I didn't recognise at first how much it impacted me. It was a case of, it was a very busy time in my life. It was during my leaving cert year. I had to sit my exams. I then was going on to college, and that was a whole new world of different experiences. So I never let it kind of hold me back. It was a case of, I would do the treatments at the weekend when I came home to visit my parents, because for the most part, how you carry out the processes and the regimes, they're not easy to carry out yourself, because you obviously can't see all parts of your body. So I'd have to ask a family member to help me with those systems. So I would carry them out at the weekend. I'd go to college during the week, and I would just do my best to disguise the symptoms and to put it to the back of my head that I had the condition. But I thought that's what I was doing, whereas unconsciously I was choosing clothing that was covering the symptoms. I was applying products like tans and makeups in a way that it would conceal it. I was styling my hair in a way that would conceal it. So those were they became second nature to me. I didn't realise I was doing them, but I also suppose I was suppressing a lot of the emotions I had around it. And it was only really when I made the decision years later to create this platform on the back of filming a documentary on it, that's when I stopped to think. And I remember at that time getting quite emotional, because it was like it was the first time that I allowed myself to really realise how much it had affected me and impacted me. And it's like I experienced all those emotions at once. As I said, they had been suppressed previously to that. So it definitely is something that, as I say, at any age, it's going to have an impact. It's going to disrupt your life or the way you lived it. It's not something that I think should control you and should determine how you live your life, but definitely when you're first diagnosed, it's obviously going to be a shock. Like, I get a lot of people who have what you say that they get in the second wave of life. So with psoriasis, it can appear at any age, but there are two life stages and when it's most likely to appear, and those are the teenage years to the early 25s, and then the second wave, as they call it, is the 50s to 60s bracket. So it's nearly like if you don't get it when you're younger, it can appear then at that age. And there's so many people that reach out to me online, either after hearing me on a show like this or just from finding me on the likes of Instagram or a social platform, reaching out to me going, I'm 50 something, I've never had psoriasis, I'm only just after being diagnosed, it's a whole different world of pain, I don't know how to start, I don't know where to go. And I suppose, as I said, that's a big disruption. At that age you probably think I have life sussed and I know the way things are. So you have a lot of people like that reaching out to you. So it's not only the young people who are lost that reach out to me, it's people who are at that stage of life where they just go, this is something completely new to me, how do I now learn how to live life with this?
And as you say, there's no good time to get that news. It is, by its definition, something that you're going to be living with for the foreseeable, as it were. You mentioned there that so many people have reached out to you. Talk us through the interactions that you have. How does that whole experience work? If I started developing symptoms and I saw that you were one of the leading people for the kind of thing that you do, and I sent you a message on Instagram or whatever, what do you guys talk about? How do you manage people reaching out?
Yeah, well, sometimes it's as simple as people open with, just like that, a very short message that's like, I heard you on the radio. They might straight away come out with asking for advice. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people will just hear me, as I said, on the radio or a television programme and reach out to me and just have been so happy to see someone else speaking about the condition. I suppose a lot of people live in the closet, per se, with psoriasis. A lot of us, they're not very to the front about it. they're battling this silently to themselves. They're not very open about it. They don't speak to other people about it. It's like a very Irish thing, isn't it? That we don't like to talk about the things that are troubling us. So there's an awful lot of people in Ireland who are like that maybe they've been living with it for years or they've only been newly diagnosed, but they're keeping it to themselves. And just to be like that, potter around your kitchen, maybe doing your housework, and to hear someone on the radio or TV. So generally when people first reach out to me, it's just this pouring of gratitude to say, I'm so happy to hear that someone else said that. When you said this or when you said that, I'm the exact same. I didn't realise someone else was like that. So a lot of the time, that initial message I get from someone is them just thanking me. And I say it's this pouring out. It's like they weren't able to tell anyone else, but they're like, someone knows, so I can talk to them. And then maybe it's when I get into conversation with them, then they feel a little bit more confident and go, actually, I'm really struggling at the moment with X, Y and Z. Could you recommend anything for me? Or like that, someone straight away will just send me a message looking for advice. So obviously, as you said, all these things, your medical professional will have to be your first port of call. A lot of the time people maybe see my page and they go, I think I actually have that. I haven't been diagnosed with it, but I think by the look of it. And I suppose in those cases you're also going, you have to get that initial diagnosis so that you know exactly what it is that you're dealing with here and that you can treat it more effectively. You might have something that presents that looks similar to psoriasis or any other condition, but it mightn't be. So the first port of call, as you say, is always to seek out medical advice, whether it's your local GP. As you said, I know at the moment it's hard to get an audience with your GP, but they should be your first port of call. And I know we hear of dermatologists and then rheumatologists and all these other ologists of specialists. Your specialist isn't going to be your first port of call with a condition like psoriasis. Most of the time your GP should be able to help you with the management of your symptoms. It's only when you get there's certain forms of psoriasis that they're that bit more complex, if it wasn't a complex enough condition as it is, that you require some medical attention. You might need to see a dermatologist depending on what treatment route that you want to go, because sometimes a GP just doesn't have the capacity to either facilitate a certain treatment or they don't have the kind of power to prescribe certain medications that you might want to explore. So for that reason, you could be given to a specialist. But I would say that for the most part, I generally don't have to advise people to go there. These are people contacting me that they've already been to their doctor, or might be that's it. They just have questions about their products that they're using that they don't want to, as like I said myself, make that call back to the doctor. They probably rang the surgery and they couldn't get through to the doctor. So they're just looking for someone who is like them using it to help them, to give that bit of advice. Something I would say as well is you can obviously reach out to people like myself to help you with it, especially as you said, if you just want to mentally talk about what it's like. But a pharmacist, your local pharmacist, is the most underutilised resource, especially with conditions like psoriasis. As I said, your GP isn't always accessible. Your pharmacist has a wealth of knowledge. They're dealing with conditions like this day in, day out. They're the ones who have the products on their shelves. They're such an underutilised resource. I would say to someone, pharmacists are a lot more accessible than your doctor. It's easier to walk into your pharmacist and talk to them about it. Some people like that. They might say, I don't want to queue in the line. I don't want to have to say to the person at the counter, can I talk to the pharmacist? People should know that you don't always have to have this conversation out on the floor. If it is something that you are that bit embarrassed about, a pharmacist always has an option that they have a room in the back that they can talk to you in if you want to speak privately. So I would say that to people, that if you're newly diagnosed, if you've been diagnosed for years and you're just not happy with your management and you feel like there could be something new out there on the market that you haven't tried, your pharmacist should be your first port of call. As I said, to get that initial diagnosis, it should be a GP. But after that, you have your pharmacist there, and after that, you have people like myself that you can reach out to say about, I'm struggling to manage this, or I'm struggling to carry out, and we can help you with that.
Itching to Tell You can be found on Instagram, as can Zoe Ryan. Zoe, you've been great with your time. Congratulations on everything so far. It's great to see people doing this kind of work, and it's great to just know and to feel that people are supporting other people. The best of luck with everything.
Thank you very much, David.
Whether you're on the road to recovery or you live with a long-term condition, occupational therapists work to give us the fitness that can lead to our happiness. You'll meet one next.
Health and fitness
with DS Sports. Is your sports club ready for a Christmas kit upgrade? Contact DS Sports at 085 871 5311 or info@dssports.ie. DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Your success, our priority. Let's grow together.
Midlands 103.
Now, very often on Health and Fitness, we profile and we platform some of the most impressive athletes that have come from Laois, Offaly or Westmeath. But our health and our fitness, as we're very determined to point out over the course of the lifespan of this show isn't just about peak high performance. Through so many different reasons, our movement can be limited, be it recovering from an injury, or we're getting older, or we have a condition. And that's when the whole idea of occupational therapy comes into the picture, and the important work that gets done by occupational therapists. We're joined on Health and Fitness this evening by Olivia Guilfoyle from Home Care Medical, who have a shop in Athlone and are based out in Mayo. Olivia, thanks very much for taking our call on Health and Fitness this evening.
Thank you, David. Thank you. It's lovely to be on and have the opportunity.
Well, look, it's. I think it's a good chance to shine a spotlight on a form of fitness and a form of health that doesn't get enough exposure, and that's the kind of work that you do. So talk us through what it is you do with Home Care Medical to give people an idea, and I imagine there's a few people listening who'll be able to relate to what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I suppose as an occupational therapist, OTs work in a variety of different settings, and I suppose our ethos would really be promoting independence, being empowering, helping people to gain competence, recovery, rehabilitation. And again, I suppose occupation, the word occupation, often people associate it with work, but your occupation is all the different roles you do in your life every single day, and being able to maintain and do those roles as well as you possibly can and get on with life and enjoy it. Some of those roles aren't always fun. We have to do our shopping, and we might have to do hobbies, or we might have things that are practical that has to be done in our work every day. But I suppose it's being able to function as best we can, do what we need to do, and to be healthy and happy, as they say. So I suppose OTs would work in so many different settings, and in Home Care Medical I would work particularly around a lot of equipment aids that would help and empower people to maybe recover, get better, or as we said, sometimes it's maintaining your health is sometimes, it's not always like excelling and being the elite at anything. Often the people I work with, and again, the clients that we work with and that come into our stores, are often trying to maintain health, really, and I suppose keeping what they got, keeping their independence. Or some people that have lost some of their skills may use other kind of devices to help them get on with life, maintain good quality life, and maintain their daily activities. So, and again, carers who often maybe need some aids and some help as well to look after somebody. I suppose Home Care Medical has an ethos where being truly ourselves and empowering you to be at home. Home is where the heart is, and being able to maintain as much as you can, being where you want to be. As they say, sometimes home mightn't be the home, your residential home. You might be in a nursing home, you might be in residential care. So I suppose it's wherever home is for that person, and what makes you happy and truly function as best as possible. And I suppose physios kind of work on strength an awful lot and work on the muscles, whereas OTs we all work together in teams and in primary care teams and in the HSE and all the different settings. But I suppose sometimes mobility, it might be just about not just strength, it might be about flexibility, being agile, as I say, keeping a good balance and keeping healthy. And keeping healthy might be just as well nutrition and looking after yourself well. It depends what that is for the person and the needs of what that person is. So I suppose, again, in mobility, we look at kind of, as OT, sometimes we may look at kind of, if you want to exercise and maintain what you have, there is different kind of aids available. There's like therapy pushy, resistance bands. There is shoulder pulleys that might help with flexibility. And the idea behind that is that you can function as well as possible. Others sometimes, and as you get older and as you age, the balance isn't as good. You're not as fast on your feet as used to be. And I suppose preventing falls as well is another thing we want to do, because we don't want people having injuries, going into hospital and bringing, or as they say, a recovery period that you just don't want to be having to go through if it's preventable. So often some of the aids even that are out there, like, might be just a walking aid, might be a mobility aid like a wheelchair, in that maybe you mightn't be able to walk distances as well as before, and your carer might have to get you maybe a wheelchair. So maybe you can get out about, maybe travel more, and that you can get to those distances and get out to people more and enjoy maybe the celebrations over Christmas. It depends what it is the need for the person. Each person is an individual, and that's why as OTs we often do individual assessments, because each kind of condition brings its own course of action. It might be the same condition, but for a different person, it might bring different limitations, what they might see as limitations. And for others, that mightn't be what it is for them. So it depends. If you're living with a condition, it can bring, in your mindset, it might bring restrictions and constraints. But in many ways, there's so many solutions out there. And I suppose as focus is that nothing should hold you back. There's often solutions that can help you get on, get out there, and just be yourself, be truly yourself if you want to be, you know. And I suppose fear and confidence sometimes, if you've got a condition and maybe may restrict you, might keep you at home because you want to cocoon yourself and not have the anxiety getting out there among crowds and people. So sometimes it's kind of it's about kind of empowering and getting out there and kind of getting the confidence back and using the aids if it would help bring you along a little bit more, and be happy and I suppose enjoy the festive fun period as well with others as much as you can, because that's what Christmas is all about, is spending time with your loved ones, your family, whoever that may be. So I suppose the different kind of, I suppose we have some gift themes as well in home care medical. I suppose it's to help people kind of be cognizant of somebody that would have care needs, that certain things might be more practical, might be more, I say, realistic for a person. And I suppose show that personalised and that this person is appreciated and loved a little bit more when this thought gone into it. And I suppose it's very difficult sometimes for people to think of ideas for Christmas sometimes, even if we're over 70, because, oh God, they have everything. We've given them, everything. And sometimes it might be just even the gift guides we have, it'd be Coasty and Toasty, which would have maybe some kind of even pain and kind of relaxation products, some heat on the joints that would bring comfort, some positioning pillows that you might sit up in bed that little bit more comfortably, or they might be just even some very practical aids, and that we've called them I've Got This, and that's to promote independence, promote mobility, and we've got these kind of packages and bundles where they might be different walking sticks, grab rails, pick-up sticks. Pick-up sticks might be really good for somebody that has got poor balance. It saves you bending down, getting dizzy, and can prevent a fall, or overreaching where we're trying to be getting all these items out of cupboards. We mightn't be as agile as we used to be, but still using a pick-up stick might prevent you getting dizzy, losing your balance. Long handle shoehorns, if you can, kind of bend down. They're great, helping you get dressed, not being dependent, being able to do things yourself. Like for somebody, that is what being physically as good as possible for them might be, and they're functioning as best as they can, and that's what life is all about. It mightn't be just exercising to be, say, an elite kind of athlete or anything.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Like what you're doing is helping people live the best version of their life that they can live, and and I imagine
the best version of yourself. Yeah.
As an OT, based on what you've said over the last couple of minutes, the work must be so broad and varied. No single day is probably the same. Absolutely
not. No. And I say, people can live with illness and they recover from, even like you can break your wrist, and anyone maybe that had ever broke a bone, to see how, like, if you break your wrist for like 6 weeks and you're in a cast, and how it upscuttles your life, your routines are all over the place. So, and then you recover. But somebody maybe that have a condition, and as well, they live sometimes for years, and maybe it might be progressive as well. So they have to plan for the future. So I suppose the background of OT as well is that we have a great training in and knowledge around like the mental health needs, the physical needs, and what a condition can bring. So we can plan ahead and help somebody live with a condition as well, as comfortably and as independently as possible.
That's another week of health and fitness in the bag. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.